All right, I'm working on a 2001 Lexus LS 430 with the a650e 5-speed automatic transmission. And it was throwing a code for shift solenoid A, and the car would start in second gear and it wouldn't shift into first. And there wasn't a bunch of helpful information on the internet, so I'm making a little video to hope to help out if anybody's having this kind of problem. So these are your shift solenoids. They're just a one-wire solenoid, and I'll show you where they go on the transmission here in a minute. But the problem I was having was trying to figure out what was what, and so I'll add some diagrams at the end of this video that could help if you're having a problem with being stuck in third gear or anything like that. And so when you pull these guys out, what you want to test is the resistance. So I have my multimeter set to ohms, the lowest setting, and I'm trying to do this with one hand. So this is the bad one, and this is a different one that I pulled out just to compare. This is for second gear, I believe. And you should see, if I can do this with one hand. So just put one lead on the pin and one on the body, and you should see about 11 or 12 ohms. When it's cold, it'll change if it's hot. But with this guy, I have nothing. So that was my problem, and it just took me a while to figure it out, so I figured I'd make the video, and I'll go show you where I pulled these guys out of now. Okay, so underneath the car, with the transmission fan removed, I didn't do this RTB job. Somebody's been in here, but these two holes are where your solenoids would be, and I'll show you after they put them back in. So you have two here, first and second, I believe, but I'll have to double check. And then these three 2-wire solenoids are like line pressure diverter or something. I don't know a lot about transmission, so, but those don't control the shifting. They control, I guess, where the... All right, I'm pausing the video here to talk about these three solenoids a little bit more as well, because I did end up testing them all before I took this video. I just didn't talk about it much, but if they could cause a problem for you, so I figured I'd let you know how to test them. So between the two pins on the connector, you should have around 5 ohms, depending on the temperature, the ambient temperature, and the ohms will rise, the resistance will increase with heat. So if if they're fresh out of the car and they're hot for some reason, then they'll be a little closer to 7 or so. Anyways, you should expect 5, and you can test them with a 9-volt battery. You can also use a 12-volt, but a 9-volt should be safer, just a household smoke alarm battery, something like that. And you just want to tap the wires to the two pins, and you should hear it click. You don't want to hold them on there, or it could burn it up, but if you just tap them, it won't hurt anything, and it'll test that they are functioning when they're commanded to. And that's pretty much all there is to those, but they are just line pressure diverters or something like that, from what I can find online. Fluid is being pumped. And then on this side, this is the passenger side now that I'm showing you. You have one here and one here. So those are your 4 solenoids. But I'm on the driver's side. This is a left-hand drive. This is the driver's side. There's the front of the car, just so you can see. So your first gear is all the way towards the back of the car on the left-hand side. And I'll get this pop back in there and show you what it looks like. Okay, back into the car. I only put in the second gear one because I have to wait till tomorrow to get the first gear one replaced, but it's those 2 bolts, one 10 mil that's pretty long, and a shorter 8 millimeter, which I'll show you here in a second. I still have to torque these. I'll try and put the torques back on the screen if I can find it. I think it's like 8 or 10 foot-pounds. It's not very tight. And then I'll reconnect the harness to show you guys that, just so that you have the information, because, yeah, definitely have had some trouble finding this information. And then I'll go over part numbers and stuff like that. Okay, and with the harness all reconnected, you have this blue plug with orange wires at the front. This big solenoid has a 2-pin gray and green wire. This solenoid has a brown and green wire. This one has a blue and red. And then second gear solenoid, I believe, yellow. And then first gear is white. And then over here, this solenoid, which I'll have to refer to the diagram for, is black with a yellow connector. And This one is pink or purple, kind of violet with a orange connector. So there you go. Hope this helps. I'll put up the diagrams now. It's kind of hard to tell with this picture because it's kind of the opposite way that I showed it, but basically the top side of the diagram-ish is the left-hand side, and the bottom side is the right-hand side, and the kind of left bottom corner would be the front of the car, and the right top corner would be the rear of the car. Anyways, you can see the solenoid numbers for 1, 2, 3, and 4 are for your gears. And then those other 2-pin solenoids are over there on the top left, the SLT, the SLU, and the SLN. I don't have a bunch of information on those or what they do, but this is a pretty helpful diagram to see which is which. Alright, I'm going to try and explain this one the best I can, although it's really small on my screen while recording this. But the important thing to look at is for drive, on the left where it says D, it shows first gear and S1 on, and the rest, the other 3 are off. And so my car wouldn't go into first gear, and so I tested the first gear solenoid, and since it has no resistance, it means that it's shorted out basically, or it has an open circuit rather, which means that it can't turn on. So that would prevent going into first gear, which makes sense. So if you're having a problem with second gear, then you need to see if the S1 and the S2 have resistance and come on. And third gear, you need to see if the S2 comes on. Fourth gear, you need to see if the S3 comes on, I believe that says, yeah. And then fifth gear, if the S4 comes on. So I guess I misspoke earlier saying that each solenoid was related to each gear, because it's not really. The combination of them being on and off determines what gear you're in. But this diagram is helpful to identify which solenoid could be the problem depending on which gear your car is having trouble in. Honestly, it's probably best to just pull them all and test them all, but you also have to remember where to put them back. So be careful with that. Maybe do it one at a time. You also cannot test these for resistance while they're installed. You have to remove them. If they're installed, it'll throw off your resistance readings. It just won't work. You have to remove them. Very important that you do that. Here's the last diagram I have that shows some part numbers. Sorry, it's kind of a bad picture. I just screenshotted it off of a forum, but so you can see on the top of the screen would be the passenger side, the right-hand side, and the bottom of the screen would be the driver's side. And so on the very bottom of the picture shows those 3 2-wire solenoids with some part numbers, and then on the top right where the lines go up show the S1 on the right and the S3 on the left. Other 2 on the other side that also say number 1 and number 2, I would disregard that, and I would refer to the previous diagram for your S1 and S2 and whatnot. Anyways, the problem with these part numbers is this is really only the first half of the part number, and for whatever reason, that's all they really give you. So if you look up the first half of the part number, add your vehicle, the year, and the transmission, and it should narrow it down a little bit, but I definitely still, for my solenoid, the S1 that I needed, it still showed me 2 or 3 different parts. So it's important to compare your part to the pictures online and make sure that you are getting the right thing, because it will definitely, the ending of the number will change depending on the different parts that it brings up. I'll put the part that I needed for mine, the full part number on the screen, but it might not be the same as what you need. I really don't know what the other ones are for, but it's important that you pull them out first so that you can verify that you're buying the right part. I hope this was helpful if anybody's having the same issues, and I apologize about referring to the solenoids incorrectly as being first gear and second gear and so on solenoid. My confusion was just that the S1 solenoid is only for first gear, so in my mind I associated it with being a first gear solenoid, but that's not true throughout all the gears. You can see by the chart that shows which are activated for which gear that that's not the case. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments and I will do my best to help you along the way.